All right, so before we really break down Daytona, who you like, your stories there, just you got a lot going on. We got a lot of big announcements, some you can make, some we can't talk about. You just came back from Cabo. I mean, tell us about what Kenny Wallace has going these days.
Well, my nickname is the Herminator, so update on the Herminator. I've been retired for about a year. 58 is when I retired, so I'm a little over 59 now, and it just seems like that social media is for here. It's real, and if you're not on it, you're not doing it. So social media has been a pleasant surprise. With your help, Charlie, we've got the Kenny Wallace YouTube show, which sees some crazy views, and we found our niche that is NASCAR. We simply talk. We do what you guys do, right? Right here on 590 The Fan. We talk about, my love for NASCAR, and we talk about the topics. And so the YouTube show is super successful, and today is a big day because we got our first sponsor, Jegs. So nice. The Kenny Wallace YouTube show is going to be brought to you by Jegs, the number one high-performance aftermarket car parts. So that's a big deal. Also, we're getting ready to announce very soon that I'll be driving in the SRX series, which is live on ESPN. I'll run up in Wheatland, Missouri in August, which will be live on ESPN, which is big. And then, we'll be announcing some other exciting things that I just can't announce. Going to be a spokesperson representing some major car collector companies. And then my brother Rusty owns 9 dealerships in Knoxville, Tennessee, but he created Southern Country Custom. Him and his son and a group of people, they build custom-made motorcycles. So Rusty has reached out to me, and by God, I'm going to be representing my brother this year. And he is, of all people, it's not nepotism, so I don't want to hear it. But he's sponsoring my dirt car, and I'm also going to be a spokesperson. We'll be starting that off in March in Daytona for Bike Week, the legendary Bike Week in Daytona. So that's a little bit of what's going on. And my wife says, well, what happened to retirement?
I was going to ask. Well, you ain't retired?
Yeah. Well, you know what it is, guys? It's kind of like y'all. I'm doing what I want to do now.
There it is. Yep.
Absolutely. So, Herm, one thing we can talk about, because it has been announced by Worldwide Technology Race Day, Raceway, they're bringing back Kenny Wallace Live. I was there for the pre-race show last year. You had just a sea of people, more than 5,000 people coming out to see that show. Then the race was a huge success. So you're bringing back that pre-race show. That's awesome. You had Rusty on there. You had Kevin Harvick, the former champ, on there. So that's exciting news. What'd you think of that show? Did it surprise you? And then it seemed like the whole first NASCAR Cup race in St. Louis was a huge success last year.
Yeah, Worldwide Technology Raceway last year finally brought the largest form of motorsports to St. Louis, which I think I'd like to remind everybody that, because I don't know if we really realize that quite yet. The largest form of motorsports. Now, we have to remember, we are all about our St. Louis Cardinals here in St. Louis, and I am too. And we're all about our St. Louis Blues, and now our soccer team, and, our indoor football team. I am a St. Louis guy. But, this is all auto racing country. I mean, we've got a lot of great racers around here. And, NASCAR is the second biggest form of fan attendance, right? So you say, okay, Busch Stadium sold out, unbelievable, 45,000. Well, we had 60,000 over there. So I just wanted to explain how big of a deal NASCAR is. Now, it might not be a ball and stick deal, but it's just big for the city of St. Louis. So they reached out to me, and they wanted me to bring back the NASCAR Race Day, which was our pre-race show. It's like it's like game day in college. It's like NFL Today with Terry Bradshaw and all the guys. And we used to kill it, years ago. Our ratings were huge. So they shut it down because they had to start FS1, that TV channel. They couldn't afford to keep our pre-race show because it cost $800,000 to put on. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. Our ratings were 1 million people watching it, So Chris Blair over at the racetrack here at Worldwide Technology says, Herman, let's do our best to try to bring it back. We had no idea the fans would go back in time. There's an old saying, you can't do that. You can't go back in time. They missed it that much, and we did go back in time. And, kind of like the Blues bringing back Brett Hall as a guy, in the arena and as a spokesperson. Brett came back, and we embraced him. And, that's what they did over there. They brought our TV show back, and, my God, we had 5,000 people or more. It clogged up the midway, and it got me pretty emotional because I guess they missed it. And so that's another big press conference we're getting ready to make after the Daytona 500 that we're going to announce a big deal there. We're going to bring back that in some form throughout the NASCAR tracks this year.
We're talking with Kenny Wallace, the Herminator, right here on Hot Take Central. Hey, Kenny, tell us about Daytona. Tell us about the track. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? And what can we expect? Sunday.
Oh, no, yeah, you're fine, man. That
Kenny gets it.
We all do it.
I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, none of us can speak.
I didn't go to Mizzou.
Hey, listen, I got to tell you a quick story about that. I'd mess. We did national TV for 15 years. And, boy, I'd mess up a little bit, and I'd get off the show, and I said, oh, man, I really messed up. He said, Kenny, it's not as big as you think it is. It's just normal. So, you mess up a little bit, and when you do watch yourself back, you're like, oh, that ain't that bad.
Yeah.
But it's all good. So, yeah, Daytona International Motor Speedway, right? Daytona Beach, Florida. That alone right there is a big deal. They built that racetrack where you can almost race it year-round. And here we are in February. It's 85 degrees down there. Now, we do get rain, but the number one thing is you're racing cars outside when you really should not do that, because, it's 38 degrees the high here in St. Louis today, but, you go down to Daytona. You get on a plane right here, you go two hours and you're in Daytona. So Daytona Speedway is located nice. It's kind of like, baseball, Fenway Park, the Boston Red Sox, the green wall, right? It's crazy. It's got so much history. It's one of the original racetracks. It's not the oldest. Martinsville's the oldest, Martinsville, Virginia, but Daytona's just legendary. And got the ocean maybe 3 miles away. It's the home of the highest speed. You never lit off the gas there. So when the race starts, you hit the gas wide open, and you hardly let off. And that's very rare. The only time we do that is at Talladega, Alabama, Talladega Superspeedway. So it's high speed, big wrecks, big impact, and it's the Daytona 500, our granddaddy.
So, Herm, yesterday or a couple of days ago, Kyle Busch was doing a press conference, and he was asked about the fact that he hasn't won the Daytona 500, but of course he has a couple championships. Then a guy like Denny Hamlin has won it 3 times, but no championships. And Kyle Busch said that about 10 years ago, he feels like it just kind of got to this wreck fest where, drivers matter, but he said it's just so much about what's going on around you and can you escape the crazy wrecks and just have a little luck on your side. Do you think that's fair about what it takes to win the Daytona 500 these days?
100%. Now let me say this. So Denny Hamlin said it right. Denny said you can get lucky one time and win the Daytona 500, but you cannot get lucky a second time and a third time. So the point is this. Sometimes drivers have a niche for the super speedway track. See, it's like, and I always put it in your guys' court, right? How can some batters – hit off of some pitchers? It's like they have their number. What is it? Maybe it's the delivery. They see the ball coming out of the guy's hand, and that's like Daytona. Denny Hamlin can win anywhere, but he's especially good at Daytona. And Denny has never won a NASCAR championship. And I always say Super Bowls, World Series, Stanley Cups, any championship, they're meant to be. They're meant to be because it's a team effort. you look at who's our Miami Dolphins great quarterback that never won the Super Bowl?
Marino,
right, there you go. I mean, one of the greatest of all time, and he never won the Super Bowl. So I don't think we judge people on winning championships. I think they're meant to be, and it's because of that group. So in NASCAR, you're leading the race, you come down pit road, and the team messes the pit stop up and costs you to win the championship. And so I believe that, World Series, Super Bowls, they're not won because of one man. I guess we could argue Michael Jordan, but he still had to have Pippen, and his group around him. So that's my take on, championships.
Do you like those long tracks like Daytona and Talladega, or are you more of a Bristol guy? What were you the best at with your skill set?
I was the best at short tracks. We won 3 in a row at Richmond, half miles. I think the reason I was good on the short tracks is I cut my teeth around the Midwest. That's where I started. I started on short tracks. But then again, you look at my stats at Talladega, I think I got like 6 top 5s down there. I love Daytona, but really never had the success that I wanted. And I kind of compare that to what your question was, Kyle Busch. Kyle's great. He'll go down as one of the greatest of all time, but he's never won the Daytona 500. There's just some tracks that get you. And but the great thing about any sport is there's always the next day or the next week, and there's always another racetrack.
And Kenny, we talk about whether it's a basketball game, football game, the players can feed off the energy from the crowd. Can you do the same in a NASCAR, especially if it's Daytona and it's packed? Back in the day, I'm sure even more jam-packed. Could you feel that energy and the noise from the crowd while you're racing?
Yes, 100%. Now, the Daytona 500 is already sold out, 100,000 people. The infield is sold out. You go in the infield at Daytona, it's party central. Now, it's not a free-for-all like we have at Talladega or the Indianapolis 500. The Indianapolis 500 has what they call the snake pit. So just think about that. It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's the Indy 500 at the snake pit. It all goes, But Daytona's more like beer and wine, but there is sections where there's bonfires and people are letting it loose. But let me just tell you, a quick deal. The year that myself and the great Dale Earnhardt Sr., we finished second in the 2000 Talladega 500, and myself and Dale Earnhardt Sr., we came from dead last with about 10 laps to go. Like with 1 lap to go, I'm wide open in my race car coming through the front straightaway running up to about 210 mile an hour, and I could hear the fans roaring because we were doing, we were hitting that walk-off, for the World Series. What we were doing was it never been seen before, right? So I was part of that, and I was pushing Dale Earnhardt to the front at 210 mile an hour, and I come through the trial and I could hear the fans roaring over the sound of our race cars, and that I'll go to my grave with. I'll never forget that.
And Herm, 75th anniversary of NASCAR. They're doing a lot of new things, new tracks, going into cities. You had the Clash the last couple years in L.A. You got a street course in Chicago, obviously the last couple years in St. Louis. What do you feel about NASCAR, what they're trying to do to bring in new fans, do some different things, but also some throwbacks as well, the Bristol Dirt Race, bringing back North Wilkesboro. I feel like they're trying to take care of everybody. Is that fair?
Yeah, you're right, Charlie. So, NASCAR was great at one time, like the biggest show, right? 250,000 people at the Daytona 500 and about 10 other tracks. So you have to remember that. Say that to yourself. 250,000 people, almost every week, 39 races. That's how big NASCAR was. And it took this tremendous fall. It fell well over 50% when we lost the death of Dale Earnhardt Sr. When you say, it's like losing Tiger Woods, right? I mean, I never thought Tiger Woods was bigger than golf, and it's true he's not. But boy, there could be an argument that he sure does move the needle. And when we lost Dale Earnhardt Sr., people just fell out of love with NASCAR. So it is true, like a Bryce Harper. I know he's a smart ass, but these guys, they eat what, even if it's what we learned about social media, right? If you hate somebody, you follow them on social media because you hate them. See, you can't wait to hate them. Well, that's the way sports is. So, when we lost Dale Sr., we lost everybody. So here we are. It's the 75th anniversary this year, 2023. And NASCAR is just about on their hands and knees trying to, make it right. And 75 years, they're looking back, and they'll do that at every race this year. They're going to be bringing in my brother Rusty, the great Rusty Wallace, Mark Martin, Bobby Allison, all these great race car drivers, Richard Petty. So they're going to be celebrating the past, but they're going to be looking forward with diversity. And we know that's the world we live in now. We have the black driver, Bubba Wallace, who is my brother, and he's a great race car driver. They're going to be celebrating him with we have some other black drivers coming in. There needs to be more black drivers. They're going to be celebrating Daniel Suarez, who is from Mexico. He won a cup race last year. So you see where I'm going. They're going to be making a big deal out of that. NASCAR feels like they're too South, they're too redneck, and they feel like if they celebrate diversity more, they feel like some diversity people are staying away because we're too redneck. And that's just not true. It was born in the South, but, the world's changed, and you're going to see that being celebrated. So it's a big year, and everybody come, and it's all going to be a big time. Going to be a lot of partying, a lot of shows, and they're trying to make every race feel like it's the Super Bowl.
Hey, Kenny, are there enough villains in the sport right now? I mean, is there enough sort of organic, fighting between just competitors who are pissed off?
Guys.
Right. I mean,
like Dale did.
What's funny is that is what made NASCAR famous is fights.
Yeah.
But listen, I listen to you guys, right? There's no more goons in hockey, right? Those days are gone. We're worried about scoring goals and hard to intimidate players anymore. So the drivers, they get mad. They do get mad, and we all run our mouth. And, it's kind of like sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt. Well, that's a false narrative. It's a good cliche, but words do piss people off.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at right now in NASCAR. There's a lot of, mouthing going on. And, of course, Bubba Wallace last year shoved on, Kyle Larson pretty hard, tried to provoke a fight. Kyle couldn't have any of it, so he didn't retaliate because he was basically in trouble himself. For using a slur, a year before. So sometimes those fights govern themselves. If NASCAR says, hey, you get one more fight, you're out. But listen, NASCAR gets you. They did it to me. They get you in their office. They go, look, man, the fight was good for TV. We appreciate the ratings. But we got to fine you $10,000, man, because that's the way it is. And so that's the way the sport regulates itself. Do you want to pay the $25,000 fine or not? But to answer your question, yes, everybody still runs their mouth, gets it out off their chest on national TV, and you just can't drop a cuss word.
Yeah. No, we've all been there. We've all been fined, Kenny. It's part of the game. If you play hard enough, it's part of the game, man.
Kenny, it's funny because I was thinking when you guys were talking about speaking, I'm thinking, Kenny and Cam have a lot in common for different reasons. You're both elite athletes, but doing the show with Kenny and then hearing Cam on his podcast, I feel like you both will call up your producers and say, hey, let's delete that part out.
Kenny.
Let's delete that part out and maybe just kind of have it a little cleaner.
Just to keep it safe.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and go there because I'll protect the innocent. But I did a YouTube on diversity, and I didn't say one thing wrong, nothing at all. I'm a lover. And in reality,
You are.
it's like man. Everybody around me, I love everybody. And I didn't even say nothing wrong, but I kind of woke up in the middle of the night, and I texted Charlie. I said, Charlie, take that part out where I said this, because it could be construed wrong. And it's sad, Cam, that's where we are in the world, because, listen, I'm retired. I truly, how do I say it? There's an old saying, everybody needs somebody, and that's the old saying. The great Cale Yarborough, one of our greatest drivers ever, looked me in the face after I shouted the F word, because that's just Missouri lingo.
Yep.
And I'm just dropping F-bombs left and right on his airplane. And Cale Yarborough looked at me and he said, boy, you might race for me one day, because he was a car owner at that time. He says, you might drive for me one day. He says, you'll never drive for me running your mouth like that.
Oh.
And, oh, my God, I felt like 1 inch tall,
Oh, yeah.
So, I love the F-bomb and just cussing is me. It is in my vocabulary. I love cussing. Expresses how I feel.
Yep.
But Cale Yarborough don't like it.
Now it's business. You got to do what you got to do.
Business.
Yep.
Right. So I called Charlie up in the middle of the night. I said, Charlie, edit that piece out.
Dude.
And there was, by the way, there was nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But I think Kenny gets it.
Peace of mind.
NASCAR's very corporate. We had the same little debate on Christmas, because NASCAR, they wished everybody happy holidays, and that ticked some people off. Yeah. And Kenny said, "I don't want to talk about it."
Yeah.
And I said, Kenny, you can, because Kenny you can talk about anything in a funny way.
Yeah.
And I think you do that well.
He does.
So, we all, for the 10 years that we did that pre-race show, right? You're on Fox, right? 1 million people watching you. If they say, what happened to, Vladimir Tarasenko? Now, I don't mind giving my opinion on Vladdy, but I'm not going to bash him. So I think that's the difference, right? I'll say, look, I like Vladdy, but what bothered me about him was that he seemed like a player that got up, but, I didn't like him shaking his head when he came back to the bench and showing that negativity. Maybe that just wore thin, and, we're looking at next year. That's how I'm going to give my opinion. I'm not going to say, I'm not going to bash Vladdy, So that's how I get away with getting my point across. Is I say what I think happened, but I don't bash people.
Yeah, there's a balance to everything. But Kenny, man, don't worry about the panic mode at 2:00 in the morning when your podcast is coming out in 3 hours and you're thinking about that one thing that you said. Oh, I've been there, man. And you just because I'm on for hours, so you have enough material. And if you need to edit out a couple little things just to have a peace of mind, you might as well do it.
Yeah, right. But Cam, what bothers me is the Super Bowl had a 5 or 10 second. They bleeped all those players' interviews, and I started laughing. I said, everybody's the same. All those players just dropping F-bombs left and right, but Fox had that, I guess, 5 or 10 second bleep. So we're all the same. We wish we could bleep ourselves.
Yep, that's how it goes.
And Kenny censors himself more than I do, because I'll text him and say, I try to craft a really spicy, kind of controversial headline, right? Because I know you got to get people to click.
Of course.
And Kenny's like, Charlie, dial it back. Dial it back a little bit.
And listen to him. Listen to him. I love it.
So, the only one I did dial you up on a little bit was go ahead and get myself. So we made some content about how I ended up coming off the desk on the pre-race show. They took Kenny Wallace off the desk and put him in the infield interviewing drivers. And I said, Charlie, let's, was Kenny Wallace fired? And boy, I tell you what, I watched the clicks go from 50,000 to 100,000.
It worked.
Because people love devastation, man.
They do.
They love. Yeah. So I just crap right all over myself, and it made me money.
And you know what?
There you go.
And you were nice.
There you go.
By the way, you were nice to Ty Gibbs after that whole outburst. You were nice with the headline.
Yeah, I could. What did I say about him? I can't remember. But
you took some shots at his height and some other things.
Yeah, well, he's a short guy. And he's got a chip on his shoulder, and it's sad to say, It's very sad to say, but that song is true. Short people got nobody, right? Short people got nobody.
Oh,
But,
man.
Yeah, they're brutal. I got a lot of short friends, and right away they're just on defense and cocky and like, man, I didn't even do anything to you.
Little man syndrome. Little man syndrome, Kenny. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. Hey, I appreciate you coming. Hey, by the way, I want to go to that snake pit. Now you got me curious. Oh, yeah. That sounds like a party.
It's now, like anything in life, we lost Studio 54 in New York, and you'll never see the legendary concert up in New York again. What was that called?
Woodstock.
The 60s. Yeah, they try to reinvent Woodstock, which the last one was wild. So you can do it. They lost so much money, but yes, the Snake Pit is legendary for sex, drugs, rock and roll, and you name it all, naked women. And so there's a lot of CEOs and important people that just accidentally drive by there.
Oh, I'm lost.
Wrong
Where am
turn.
I? Oh, I love it, man. Hey, appreciate you. I know you're a busy man. We'll be watching this Sunday, and we'll be watching you on YouTube, of course, doing your thing with Charlie Marlowe. Appreciate you coming on, Kenny.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
See ya,
Herm.
buddy. Herm right there, the Herminator. What a
good
great
stuff.
dude. Yeah, man. The Snake Pit.
He's instant offense.
He's great, man. No, but I get that, like, waking up in the middle of the night, like, I know my wife's listening. She's like, she'll know. I'll call my guy and be like, yeah, remember I said that? Go ahead and just take that out.
You know what? By the way, he didn't say anything bad whatsoever. It's just, I think the tap dance, especially.
It's a tap dance.
And again, I'm going to say this in the proper way because I don't want to ruin any announcements. He has all of these opportunities with NASCAR as well.
Yeah, I know.
And NASCAR loves the fact that he's fair and critical, and the fans love that.
Yep.
But you do have to do a little bit. We all
tap dance,
have to do a
Charlie?
little tap dance.
Little tap dance.
If all of a sudden these opportunities are coming.
I know,
And
man.
he's doing the pre-race show at Worldwide Technology Raceway.
You got to be yourself, but you just, that's why if you're able to, look, we do 3 hours a day, man, live, dude. Like live every day. And there's some things I look back and I'm like, I would have added that out. Not much, because I'm just like, we're free and easy on this show, and that's what I like. Don't get me wrong. But sometimes on the pod, I'm like, it's not worth it. It's just because I know it's going to happen. Somebody's going to listen to it, and they're going to clip that out of context, and they're going to put it on Twitter. And all the bots, the weirdo bots, are going to be like, I don't know who Cam is, but I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. How dare he? And you're like, oh, God. You're like, oh, no, I didn't mean it like that.
The worst is when people quote tweet it and they already give the other person that's reading it a preconceived notion, and they're like, look what this a-hole said.
Exactly.
And they've
He's an animal.
they've already formed that opinion to their or to their viewers who are probably already a fan of said person.
But they're not a fan. Like, if you look at the guys if they do that to me on Twitter, and you look at who comments on that particular thing, they don't follow me. They don't know me. They're from all over the damn place. A lot of them from, like, Europe or something, or, like, middle. I don't know what that. They're all over the place. They're like bots. They say the same thing over and over. This can't stand. Like, oh, Jesus. Calm down, you baby. Lord.
Excuse me, can you shut the hell up, please?
Yeah, like, shut up. Lord. This Charlie and Kenny partnership proves people should put political view BS aside. A liberal like Chuck can get along with a real American badass like Kenny.
Charlie is right.
I'm a Democrat, by the way. I don't identify as a liberal. By the way,
yeah.
Kenny and I, we hardly ever talk politics. He's fun, man.
He's fun.
He's a fun dude.
My hero.
He's a good dude, man. I like him a
great
lot.
dude.